Salutations and welcome back to Let's Play Tales of Phantasia. This is Edgar. In the previous installment, we made our way through the world's most elaborate oven and managed to burn to death, but we soldiered through the heat and collected the explode spell for Archie as well as the flame burge, the legendary weapon of the Kingdom of Odin. With the flame burge and diamond ring in hand, we now have two legendary weapons, and only the Vorpal sword remains. Welcome to Freeze Kill. The developers thought long and hard about this particular town's name. The Vorpal sword is hidden somewhere within the walls of Freeze Kill, but before we get to hunting, we are going to stay at the inn. This is not necessary, I am simply doing this for completion's sake. You see, if you stay at the inn in Freeze Kill, you will hear a sound during the night. That sound is the boss we are going to have to face, and if you came here without the flame burge, as most people will, you're in for one hell of a fight. In addition, there is a swordsman in the inn who will sell you the Lion Flare double art for 33,000 gold. Go ahead and pick it up. If you didn't collect the flame burge first, this double art will be a huge help to you during the next dungeon. Don't forget the Cinderhawk combination you picked up from Ari, that one will serve you well also. Now, let's discuss those two double arts in greater detail. Since I have the flame burge, I won't need them myself, but since most people will come here without the flame burge in hand, the fire element damage of these two double arts will be a huge boon for the next dungeon, as almost everything in there takes extra damage from the fire element. The boss itself takes damage only from fire and non-elemental attacks, so be sure you come here with a non-elemental weapon for Klus if you do not have the flame burge. So, Lion Flare is a combination of Lionheart and Magma Rift. Klus will charge and unleash a spire of magma in the enemy's face. Cinderhawk is a combination of two fire elemental attacks, Flaming Pigeon and Magma Rift, and the way in is safer, so it's the double art of choice against the boss, though it is more expensive to use. In both cases, you will have to master Magma Rift, but that's fine because the dungeon is a great place to do it. Magma Rift is actually beaten out by Firebrand in terms of damage, so use Firebrand if you have Flame Burge equipped on Klus. It makes the boss so much more manageable. In the supermarket, the blue-hooded NPC will state the obvious, but this NPC is not the reason we are here. There is also an NPC called Jerk, and Jerk will waste no time hitting on Archie. Observe what happens. So there you have it. Our lovely pink-haired spell slinger has standards. The old man standing at the back of the supermarket sells recovery items. Be sure to stock up before you attempt the dungeon, but rest easy, this dungeon is much less difficult than the inferno we went through before we came here. Two other NPCs in the supermarket of note, both are standing behind the counter. One of them is a food merchant, so feel free to stock up, especially if you went to Odin first, as you probably ripped through your food supply, but note the type of shit sold here. I'll cover this as we go through the dungeon, because I find it all rather strange. Thanks for the potato, I guess. Anyway, the other merchant will sell accessories as well as rune bottles, and rune bottles are what we want, because we tore through our supply of them in Odin's Tower. You might be thinking that you need to transform your nymph's rings back into salamander's rings to protect you from the freezing cold, but this is not necessary. The heat in Odin is infinitely more hostile. Only bother with salamander's rings if you desperately want immunity to water element spells. But I'll educate you right now on the dungeon. Water element spells will be sparse. The boss has two, but just like the rest of the dungeon, melee attacks are the big threat you're going to be facing, so be sure Klus has both good armor and a black onyx. The last store sells weapons and armor, and if you're incredibly lazy and couldn't be fucked returning to Thor for a laser blade, you can pick one up here for 200,000 gold. The NPC characters will talk about different things. One will mention that the Vorpal sword lies somewhere in the area, but nobody has ever managed to find it. Another will talk about a place that is hot all the time, and we know all about that one. The third will give you a combination for the combo command accessory, but it's unlikely you've been able to afford it at this point in the game. If you've somehow lost your spear from the ninja village and do not have the flame burge, buy a destroyer sword. It's non-elemental and has a high critical strike chance, but it is weaker than the spear, and it will consume Class's mana with every swing. The armor is all beaten out by the stuff we purchased at the Edgar's workshop, but there is a new ribbon for Archie, and it's inexpensive, so be sure to pick one up for the road. Once you are prepared, head to the northern district to freeze kill. This northern area houses the Church of Fenrir. The dungeon is located within the walls of the church, but if you talk to the NPC characters standing around the fire, you'll learn that nobody has been inside the church in a very long time. So, nobody has been in the church for decades. They can stuff any taboos they have. The Vorpal sword is somewhere in the church, and we need its power to create a sword, so we are going to gain access no matter the cost. You lot can sit out here and enjoy the fire. What a creepy eyeball. Big Brother is watching you. The party will ponder how to get inside, but only for a moment, because the boss will start threatening them, even though they haven't set foot in the church yet. Somebody is eager to fight, I say. You might be wondering how we are going to get inside. Don't concern yourself with that. Archie will give the door an almighty shove. Not the most graceful entrance, but who cares? Into the Church of Fenrir. When you enter the church, simply walk north, and Plus will start to admire the stained glass windows. But once again, only momentarily, as the boss will show up yet again to threaten the party. We still haven't entered the dungeon, and this guy has threatened us 2 times. He's a bit of a prick like that. Well, he did just give us permission to enter, so let's indulge the bastard. Head behind the altar the boss's illusion was standing upon and check the back wall. The wall will lower, revealing the dungeon entrance. So let's get to work. The Vorpal sword is not going to find itself. And welcome to Fenrir's Cavern. As I said, you might think that the freezing cold would be every bit as hostile as the heat in Odin's tower, but the cold is not able to damage you like the heat could, so this place is already much less difficult. Before we get moving, let's sort Plus's skills out. Since we have the Flame Burge, we don't have a pressing need to master Magma Rift, and if you recall, Flame Belt gave us a brand new ability when we defeated her and claimed the Flame Burge, and I am going to work on mastering it right away, because not only is it a very powerful ability on its own, it will be used for a really good double art later in the game. Once I master it, I will replace it with Firebrand, because it has more damage potential than Magma Rift, as well as doing more hits, leaving an enemy locked down. If you do not have Flame Burge, Magma Rift will perform better, as the first hit of Firebrand is the strongest and takes the element of your weapon. Enough lollygagging around, it's progression time. The room to the east has a locked door, and the switch can be found in the room we were previously in, so let's head back to locate it. You all no doubt noticed the chest on our first visit to this room. The chest will give you a question mark helm, and if you've been to the Edgar's workshop, there's no pressing need to identify it, as it will transform into another paladin helm for Chris. We picked up one of these in Odin's tower, And just like that one, this is vendor bait. Never mind that, the switch can be found on the back wall. If you try to use it, Clark will say that it's frozen and cannot be moved. This is not a big concern, because we have an accessory that can fix this little problem, and we have had this accessory for a very long time. You will need to equip the sorcerer's ring on somebody. It's going to be needed for a few places in Fenrir's cavern. Fire at the switch to remove the ice. Use it once and Klus will burn his hand like a dickhead. Use it a second time to unlock the door in the eastern room. Door is open, let's proceed. Okay, these are Ekims. Ekims are Volt's retarded cousins, and clearly, the word Ekim is simply Mike backwards, so this was probably put in by a clever developer. Ekims are incredibly easy to kill, so I hardly need to explain anything at all about them, but be aware that they absorb air element attacks and also have the God Breath spell. They're vulnerable to fire, so Klus can hit them extremely hard if he has the Flame Burge. Keep an eye out for any question mark weapons they drop. It might be a crappy long sword, or it might be a powerful air element spear, which sells for a lot but is sadly worthless against the boss in this place. Let's head through the now open door. Nothing in here, so head down the stairs. Strangely, there is unfrozen water in this dungeon, and this is going to become a gimmick a little later. There's a gimmick we have to mess about with now though. The candle stands have returned, and you'll need to light all of the candles in this area to proceed. When you light them all, this door will open and you can proceed further into the dungeon. More candles can be found to the west. That's the lot, let's go. Well, it looks like we've finally found the brainwashed ninja that Lanzo and Susu were talking about. For those of you who do not know, a kunoichi is a female ninja, and as far as enemies go, they're probably the most dangerous thing in here aside from the nightmare of a boss. They're rather flimsy in terms of hit points, but they have an interesting method of dodging your attacks, and they can do a ton of damage in the heartbeat. I am going to ask Tom to leave all the fights against kunoichi intact, because some rather amusing shit can happen while fighting them. You will also learn that kunoichi have a rather strange diet, consisting of fish and Twinkie sticks. I can't imagine that's healthy, but I am no dietitian, so what the hell do I know? Let's proceed through the open door. A question mark armor from the chest as you go. This question mark armor will transform into a star cloak, and if you're still missing one for either Mint or Cloth, go ahead and give them new threads. Don't give it to Archie, her incredible dark robe shits all over it. I am already sorted in this respect, so these are vendor bait. Let's carry on. Proceed south and then west. You will encounter a frozen statue. Let's go ahead and ignore it for the moment. A new vine-type enemy. These are Sendum, and Sendum is madness backwards, although spelled incorrectly, so someone is clearly messing about with wordplay in this dungeon. Sendum can drain your HP and TP just like the occults in Odin's tower, and can grab you in the same fashion, though they lack the paralyzing capability, so they're less dangerous by default. They're vulnerable to fire, so Flame Burge will absolutely wreck their shit. Love the voice acting. North of the frozen statue, you will find what appears to be the entrance to a new area, but you can't quite squeeze through the gap, even though it's very clearly larger than your characters. What the fuck ever. To the east of the cave, you will find a candle stand. Lighting this candle stand will open the door directly south, but if you try to proceed, a brisk wind will fly out of the cave, blowing out the candles you just lit and trolling the fuck out of you. It doesn't matter how fast you are, the wind will beat you to the punch every time. What you need to do is block the wind, so let's head back to the frozen statue. Fire at it with the sorcerer's ring to thaw it out, and then move it over to that cave. Placing it like such will prevent the wind from trolling you again. I neglected to mention that Sendum can drop either apple gummies or mixed gummies if you're lucky. Let's light those candles a second time. The wind can't blow them out since the statue is blocking passage, so we are now free to proceed down the stairs. Head to the north in this new area. More unfrozen water will show up, but we are yet to mess about with water in this dungeon. Nowhere for us to proceed except to the west. Get used to this room, you're going to see several copies of it. You are standing at the entrance to a grid, and there are a few worthwhile treasures to claim from it. I will lead you to the valuable stuff. From the entrance, head to the north 2 times, and then 1 time to the east. You will run into a treasure chest, open it for a question mark book. This question mark book will transform into an Ex Mortis, and it has the same power as the 7th son we claimed from Odin's Tower, though this is technically the inferior book, as it lacks the 50 run bonus for Cloth. No matter, it sells for an absolute fortune. From the Ex Mortis, you want to next head to the west a total of 4 times. You'll run into another chest, and this one will have a shield ring. That's that, we now have 4 in total, so let's give Archie the last one, and that's our spellcasters sorted in that respect. Speaking of Archie, there is a spell we want to collect for her in this grid. From the shield ring, head once to the east, and then 2 times to the south. You'll run into a chest with a black onyx. Pick it up and then head south once, and then to the west. That's a whole lot of fakes. When you head southwest from the Black Onyx, you will find a chest with a new spell for Archie. This spell is Tidal Wave, and it is the ultimate water spell, smashing the entire screen for massive water element damage. Turn it off when you pick it up, of course, as it will simply heal the enemies in this dungeon. That leaves only 3 spells missing from Archie's arsenal, 2 of which are in the bonus dungeon, and 1 of which is in the final dungeon. From the Tidal Wave spell, head east once to return to the grid, and then simply head north repeatedly until you reach the exit of the grid. You'll know you've done it right if you encounter this small room. This marks the point where the dungeon can become a little confusing, because there are twisting and turning passages, and we have to fuck about with water. Just follow my lead. An Ankh shield from this chest, but the one nearby has something more useful. If you try to go through this door, your path will be seemingly blocked by something. It's actually a treasure chest, but I cannot show it by disabling layers in this emulator. Loot the chest to make it disappear, thus granting you access beyond, but more importantly, giving you a question mark helm. The question mark helm will transform into a star cap, so let's equip it on Mint after we identify it. Clark already has a star cap equipped. You cannot give it to Archie, as Archie only equips ribbons. Chester also cannot wear the star cap, and Cliss has a stronger helmet, so it would be pointless even if he could equip it. No big problems though, it's a better helmet than Mint's silk hat. Now that that's sorted, let's head on through and off to the east to the next screen. We need to go south, but I will go east first. Fantastic, Lionheart has been mastered. This means of course that we can use all associated double arts, with the exception of Lion Flare, because I have not yet mastered Magma Rift, so what say we give Cliss one of our new double arts. Lion Lunge isn't up to snuff, as it uses the dual kick skill, but Lion Claws is rather good, as it is a combination of Lionheart and Blade Storm. Cliss will charge and perform Blade Storm upon reaching the enemy, except his Blade Storm will constantly move him forward, which is just what Blade Storm needs to shine. Now, this room is flooded with water. We can move the water out of this room, but our ultimate goal is to have the water back in this room and frozen, because the boss is to the north of this area, and you must walk on the ice to reach that area. So let's get to work on that. Soul Wave is pretty strong. Remember how I told you to keep an eye out for question mark weapons from Ekims? Let's go ahead and use a rune bottle on this one. If you're unlucky, it will transform into a worthless long sword, but if you're fortunate, it will become an arc wind, an air elemental spear. It's a little bit weaker than the flame burge we have equipped, and Ekims will absorb it, so don't bother to equip it even if you have come to Fenrir first and do not have the flame burge. It sells for a lot of gold. Arc wind aside, we need to head to the switch in the center of this area to shift the location of the water. I love when the ninja flip the fuck out like that. Seriously though, I really have to question their diet. Nothing but Twinkies and fish can't be nutritious enough. Dear ninja, if you want some fucking chicken, I have plenty of fucking chicken to spare. Right, the water has been moved. So let's return to the eastern room to progress. Soul Wave is pretty strong. As you can see, the water location has shifted. There is a staircase to the south we will take, but take a look at the ledge just above the party. The exit on that ledge leads to the boss, so I wasn't joking. We have to walk on ice to reach that shit. Soul Wave is pretty strong. Head through the opening to your left. There is a not so obvious exit to this room to the right, so head north. And then north in the next area for some treasure. Soul Wave is pretty strong. Kills the ninja even when a tree trunk has smashed Cliss in the face. Through the door for your pair of chests. One of these contains a question mark bow, and the other a pair of cute mittens. You know what to do with cute mittens, they're a girl-only pair of gloves, and we gave the pair we found in Odin's tower to Mint. Let's give this pair to Archie. As for the question mark bow, it will transform into a gale spread. Do you remember the wave spread we won in the Colosseum back in the day? Well, the gale spread is the exact same bow, just with an air element instead of a water element. Chester's elven bow shits all over it, so don't bother using a rune bottle on it unless you want the gold from vendoring it. Now let's go find that water. Soul Wave is pretty strong. Excellent, Mint has gained the Raise Dead ability. Raise Dead will be cast on a dead party member, bringing them back to life, but not with a whole lot of HP to work with. It has a rather neat animation, because the party member will descend from the heavens as an angel, and the angel will have the appearance of the dead party member in question. Claff's angel even has his hat. Mint cannot use it on herself, so I wonder if anybody has ever hacked the game to see if Mint has such an angel. Mint has only one spell left to learn. It's a full screen heal much like Nurse, though far more powerful. It has a confusing name though, since it is called Resurrection. Enough about that though, we have found the water. You can freeze the water while it is in this section. There is a switch in the nearby room that will do this, but that room is locked. Fortunately, unlocking that room is a very simple matter. Return to the south room and throw the switch on the wall. The nearby door will lock, but that's fine, we do not need to return that way. Head into the newly opened room and step on the elaborate switch. The water has been frozen, and you are now able to walk upon it. We need to return to the earlier lever that shifts the water location and throw it a second time. That will return the now frozen water to the original position, and we will be able to reach the boss that way. And before I forget, Soul Wave is pretty strong. Proceed over the ice and up the large flight of stairs. You should recognize this room. This is where we got a star cap. So simply take the second door from the right to reach the north side and exit to the east. Bully. Soul Wave has been mastered, but we will have another skill to master after we beat the boss. For the moment though, let's go right ahead and remove Soul Wave even though it's pretty strong, because for our purposes right now, Firebrand is even stronger. Remember, if you do not have the Flame Burge, Magma Rift will serve you better than Firebrand. Let us shift the water, or should I say ice, back to the first pool. Holy gummies, Batman. Don't ask me how the fuck the ice moves around. Fuck logic, this is Tales of Phantasia. Now that the ice is to the east, let us head that way. That one boss awaits. Head to the east to find the ice, and simply march over it and exit the room by the door to the north. And make sure Kliss has a non-elemental weapon equipped if you do not have Flame Burge. We now have to fight the boss, and he is hands down the most difficult boss in the entire game. You will need to make adequate preparations. Have Kliss all the way forward, but leave some space between him and Chester, or shit will hit the fan. Have your other characters far at the back. Your main weapon in this fight will be either Claff with Maxwell or Chester's arrows, so take your pick. I would recommend you have Archie in the party for fireball spam, because it will keep the boss busy, and that's vital here. That's also the same job Kliss now has, keep the boss from getting to Chester. Now, the boss himself is Fang Wolf, guardian of Fenrir's Vorpal sword. Fang Wolf has a few ice spells, both of which can hit multiple times, but the real danger from Fang Wolf is that he is a melee god. Think Chaos's melee attack, except it hits multiple times, will stun you very easily, and he marches forward as he claws you. Fang Wolf can force you to the corner in a flash, and if he forces you to the corner, you are completely screwed. If you elect to use Chester for your damage, be sure to throw a cast of Valkyrie at him to boost his attack power. Once you defeat Fang Wolf in combat, he will do what Flame Belt did and transform into the Vorpal Sword. If you are yet to visit Odin's Tower, this sword is what you're going to want to use. It will wreck shit in that place. As with Flame Burge, attaining the Vorpal Sword will grant Kliss a brand new tech. This one comes to you straight from the Soul Calibur series. And as with Soul Wave, you'll want to master Soul Edge as quickly as you can, especially since the best tech in the game requires it. Now that we have the Vorpal Sword, I'll meet you outside the church. Alright, there is nothing left for us in Freeze Kill. We have plundered the church for the Vorpal Sword, Tidal Wave, and a few other useful bits and pieces. So, we have all three legendary weapons, the Vorpal Sword, the Flame Burge, and the Diamond Ring. So how the bloody hell are we supposed to combine these into this alleged eternal sword? Perhaps our old friend Runglum can tell us. Head on up to the throne room to find Runglum. There he is, let's see what he has to say. So we were referred to the research center. Perhaps somebody in there knows what to do. Let's take a look. This NPC here will spill the beans. In order to combine the three legendary weapons, we will have to pay a visit to Origin. We have visited Origin before, to repair 2 rings, so next episode we will return to that bastard forest. Until then, this has been Edgar, and as always, thank you for your patronage.